All right. Hello friends, I'm ready to get going again. I've got everything done except for my clapper. So we just have to go clapperless today. Hope that's all right. Except for my clapper. I get to hear myself talk. That's interesting, isn't it? All right. There we go. So oil stages. Always a fun stage. So I'm using liquid as a medium here. Oh, before I proceed, let me show you what I've done. During the break, when I thought it was all finished with the oil stages, but I did this whole trick. I took this painting upstairs to my computer, and how can I explain this? I messed around in Photoshop until I got a print off my printer. It's exactly this size. And I should have brought that down, and I failed to do that for you, sorry. Anyway, then I traced it with a Sharpie marker. I'm confusing, I wasn't tracing the painting, I was tracing my print. And then that allowed me to lay this on top of this portrait of Sheba and make a few corrections. Those are all done. I usually save that degree of, using tricky mechanical tools. I usually save that for late in the process. But I didn't this time. Yeah, what the heck. Part of the reason I save what I used to call cheating, using any mechanical or photo or measuring, grading, anything. I used to save it, or no, not used to, I still do, when I'm doing people portraits. And the reason is because I just want the hard work, the practice of trying to get people faces perfect without having to employ those tricks. I don't have the same compulsion with pet portraits. It doesn't bother me, so to speak, because I'm never going to turn into a full-time dog portrait painter. Does that make sense? If I were, I might worry about it and work harder on doing it by eyeball, but it's not going to happen. So I don't care. I'm trying not to say the word. It sounds like I don't care, but that's it. I don't care. Okay, the first glaze that I did just a second ago was ultramarine blue, a little bit of phthalo blue down here. Now I'm doing, it doesn't really matter too much what colors I do, just whatever looks good. Now I'm using oxide red, which is a brown, very similar to burnt sienna. Hello, Gwendolyn and Bonnie Jones Gunter again. So this is just pretty much standard operating procedure for me for all my paintings. That is acrylics underneath, and then the very first thing I do in oils is do a glaze, or whether you want to call it one glaze, or because it's several different colors, or call it plural glazes, doesn't matter, either one. But anyway, it's many colors, one layer of transparent. So you have to understand the word transparent for that to make sense. And everybody does know the word transparent. Some people want to make it difficult and say, is it like translucent sounds like a more big people word. So sometimes people get confused. They want to use the word translucent. No, transparent is the right word. Clear like glass, right? Colored, clear like glass. All right. I'm doing a little bit more blue on Sheba, the beautiful German Shepherd. I have to say, I didn't say this earlier, I have to say I'm really partial to German Shepherds myself. I've never owned one. When I was a little kid, my best friend, Lee Lou, their family always had German Shepherds. It scared me to death at first, you know, when you're a little kid and it's twice as big as you are. But anyway, I learned to really like their dogs. And we had, when I was at junior high or high school, I guess, up through getting married, my family, my parents owned a Norwegian elk hound, which has the face of a German Shepherd, very similar, slight like husky, tiny bit of husky look on top of a German Shepherd face, but mostly just German Shepherd look. All right, I'm done with that already. Isn't that nice? That was fast, wasn't it? Now I'm going to do some drawing with small brushes. Again, the medium that I'm using here, the label's all dirty, but it's called Liquin. And it's a fast drying medium. And it's very transparent. I like it because it's transparent and it dries fast and it dries glossy. And I just happen to like all three of those properties. Fast dry, transparent, and glossy. I want to get this reference photo over here a little closer. That doesn't work very well. All right, it's all right. Now, so drawing with sort of a dark bluish brown. It doesn't really make much sense, does it? Bluish brown. You know, your favorite color when you were in 3rd grade. Hey Billy, what's your favorite color? Bluish brown. Didn't quite make the all-time favorite list in 3rd grade. Anyway, I am, you know what, I'm going to lower that stick down. It's I guess it's a stick that Sheba has in her mouth. It has it's kind of bone shaped at this end. That's what was wondering, is it a bone or was it one of those store-bought bones? But I don't think so. I think it's just a stick that widens at this end. So that's the way I'm going to paint it. So again, I'm doing dark. Am I in your way? Almost, but not quite. You're looking right over my shoulder, aren't you? Dark details and transparent. That's important. Because if you do dark paint and it's opaque, like it has a tiny bit of white in it, it will come across muddy. It will look slightly muddy. And that's not a pleasant feel. It's not a nice look. Now, a lot of the drawing, whatever you may want to call it, is, as you're perceiving, is already done on this in the acrylic stage, right? That is correct. So the details that I'm doing right now are just reinforcing, making some of the bits slightly darker. For instance, there's a name tag, dog tag, badge, something down here. And another one here. This is the one that's shaped like a bone. I don't know what it is, but it's probably the official dog tag is my guess. I know our dogs had that same blue, shaped like a fat bone. I don't know if that makes any sense, but anyway, two tags on Sheba's collar. Add some brown to my mix so it's not quite as blue now. So at the end of this phase, this layer, which won't take me too long, as you can see, the painting should be overall a little bit too dark, because the next layer after this one, in fact the next couple of layers probably, are going to have the effect of lightening and making the painting lighter. So at the end of this stage, I want it just a little bit too dark. That'll set me up just about right for the next layer. So I'm looking at the patterns in Sheba's fur quite a bit more carefully now. The colors and so on. Now I'm 4 or 5 layers from being finished. Well, 4 anyway. Hard to say. So one of the concepts that I talk about quite often, because I'm usually think I'm talking to student painters, student artists, people who want to paint or be better artists. One of the things I say often is that you don't put your full weight down on an unfinished painting or drawing or piece of any kind. In other words, you don't demand that it look good. I do, and I know that sounds really strange, but I think that is one of the common mistakes that early journey artists make. Is it's almost as if, and I think this is true, it's as if they're embarrassed. They don't want anybody to see their painting in its underwear, so to speak, in its unfinished state, because it doesn't look that great in its unfinished state. And so they rush ahead and do things, for instance, like in this phase, in this stage right here, they rush ahead to make things look good that shouldn't ought to be looking good. And in so doing, then they, wait, I've got a little hair on this. And so in doing that, by rushing ahead, they short circuit some of the aesthetics. Something should be left, so to speak, ugly. So in this case, I'm telling you that at the end of this stage right here, my painting should be overly dark. See, and that embarrassment is not going to make me rush ahead and lighten it up, because it can't be. You can't do everything all at once. You can only do one thing at a time, so to speak. So you want to make sure that you're doing the right thing at each time, with each layer. 1, 2, 3, 4. Cutting the stripes on this butterfly wing. 1, 2, 3, 4. For instance, like right now, Sheba, especially around her eyes, and her eyeballs in particular, are too dark. And again, if I was insecure, nervous, or whatever, I'd say, ooh, that doesn't look good. I better fix that. That's what goes on inside an immature painter. They say, ooh, that doesn't look good. I better fix that. Do you hear that? That terminology is counterproductive. That is not good. No, don't fix it. No. Leave it be. Because if you fix it now, you'd just be messing it up. So I'm more than content. I am, of course, comfortable. In fact, my paintings, I paint, as you may know, I paint more cityscapes than anything else. And most of those cityscapes are done on location, done on the spot. So I'm painting what is called en plein air, French term for out in the open air. For some reason, we've adopted that. Makes us sound artsy, don't you know? So I'm painting on the street, and so pedestrians are often walking by when I'm painting, and there are, in the early stages, especially of my cityscapes, my landscapes in a city, there are stages where my paintings are quite unbecoming, shall we say. They're in their underwear. I don't use that term normally, but they're in their unfinished state, and my paintings can be quite homely in those unfinished states. And it didn't really take me very long. How many years? I've been doing that particular activity for about 15 years. Maybe right at first I was a little bit insecure and nervous, but I got over it really quickly. And to tell you the truth, I really derive a strange little perverse pleasure. Don't tell anybody this, I'll deny everything. But I derive a little twisted humor of watching people respond to my paintings in their early stages. I can tell that they really want to be nice, and they want to say something complimentary. I mean, here's this guy, hanging it out on the street, really being very, what's the word, taking a risk and showing his work right here. And so they want to be nice, but they come around the corner and they look at my painting and they go, and then they usually go, nice painting. By which I can tell clearly what they really mean is, I sure hope this isn't your day job. And I get a kick out of that now because, the joke's on them, so I know the painting's going to be good. It doesn't mean everyone is an absolute home run, but they're at least a sloppy double, if not a home run. Okay, wait. Here's a little landscape trick. Now the photograph barely shows this. It does show it, but just barely. So obviously this is a picture of Sheba in her own backyard. I happen to actually know where this backyard is because I'm doing this for my friend Gif and for his siblings, for his parents. This is his parents' dog. And I actually know where they live, at least Gif, I'm assuming, if you're watching still. I'm assuming they still live out. I won't say where they live, but anyway, I used to jog by it years and years and years ago, 20 years ago. I used to, way out in the country, I used to jog by their house. Anyway, to give the impression of distance in this field, well, first of all, I've already done one thing, right? Clearly, dark to light, dark to light. So that's one thing that gives the suggestion or hint of distant space going back. The other thing that will do it will be horizontal striations, horizontal marks. See, these dark, right now I'm doing it dark. So that gives the sense. That's one of the main things. And the horizontal marks become finer, narrower, closer, and straighter the farther away they get from the viewer. The closer they are, the wider and more irregular. Same thing with waves on water. And I will be, that's a little too regular over here. I'll be re-emphasizing or emphasizing that feeling of space more in the subsequent layers. And before I go, so I want to do some more on this earth up close to us. And that is this. I feel like this color down here is entirely too bright and blue. I made it blue because I wanted it dark, and I'm okay with the dark, but I don't like the color, so I'm just adding brown to this color. Now please understand, once again, I'm at least 4 layers from being finished with the whole painting, and 4 layers from being finished with this ground. So again, I don't demand of it, of this dirt, of the earth down here, that it look perfect, right? And again, so that impulse, ooh, I better fix that, is a bad impulse, right? You fix it in turn. You fix it by doing the right thing, not by doing some real quick patch-up job right now. All right, so I'm done with the dark details already. That didn't take long. I'll take just a moment to clean these brushes, and let's decide whether to keep painting or take a break for supper. I don't know if you can smell that. Supper's almost ready. Well, hello. Let me say some hi to some friends over here. I said hi to Gwendolyn and Bonnie. Hello, Jennifer and Angel King. Oh, my goodness. Good to see you. Hello, Vera Susan Jim. 2 brushes at once because I can, Vera Susan. I talk about that quite a bit. Robert, I'd love to do a painting for you. Hello, John Manning again. Good to see your voice. Bless you. Hello, Sherry Maxwell. And over here, GIF. Oh, I didn't. Good. I have not seen those emails, Ransom. I'll look. Ransom, listen to me. Hey, Ransom, you can call me Nelson. Good. I will look at those. And a friend from somewhere in Russia or Latvia, Lithuania. I have 2 of those. Yeah. Oh, that's so fun. Thank you. Hello, Dennis Redmond. Good to see you as well. And hello, Pink Haze Pie. All right, I'm going to paint a little bit because you can't smell supper, but it's smelling really good over here. You're lucky you can't smell it. All right, so for the first time, I'm going to put out titanium white on my palette. Titanium white, for those of you who are not painters, white is the color that an oil painter uses the most of, because typically we mix white with everything to make it light and to make it opaque. And my white it's called an alkyd white. That means it's fast drying, which is really helpful. That means if I want to, I can go ahead and slap down fairly thick bits, and I will do this late in the process. I can slap down very thick bits of titanium paint without worrying about it taking weeks to dry. Right, now here's a tool. I am going to paint as soon as I figure out some way I can stick this up, I'm going to go ahead and paint Sheba's eyes, at least start painting them. And once again, this kind of grip on. Look at this. Typically I call this the death control grip, or the control freak grip, and it's something I frown on a great deal. If you watch, you can see my face right now. I'm frowning up a storm. Unless you're doing details on a portrait, that's the only time I don't frown on it. That and calligraphy, by the way, but I'm not doing calligraphy right now, am I? But I'm doing details on a portrait. I don't always do eyes first, either on people or on pets. But I just want, there's a, what's the word, a name perhaps you could say for this practice, this principle that I'm doing right now. And it is do the hardest thing first. I'm not sure hardest is the right word here. The most critical thing first. Man. Well, GIF, I will look forward to looking at those additional photo references. Thank you very much. They won't help me right at this moment, but hopefully they'll help me in later stages. I'm looking for a nice small brush. Knock down one. Here we go. Here's another frowning. If you've ever had an art class, then you almost certainly heard your art teacher say, don't use black. And generally speaking, that teacher was correct. They were telling you the truth, but not the whole truth. It's kind of a half-baked or immature statement of the reality. The real reality is don't misuse black, don't abuse black. What the art professor was trying to get you not to do, you see, black kills color. And an immature, a beginner painter, I almost said a child, but a beginner painter, their natural impulse often will be to stick their paint in black, stick their brush in black paint. I'll get it out yet, hang on, to make something darker. And that's what the art professor is saying. No, don't do that. And so generally, if you've had a class and they told you that, and they probably did, that was true. But really the truth, and the reason is, again, because black kills color. But once you understand that, then you can use it safely. And the real expression should be, don't misuse black. And there are very few places in nature where like a true black really shows up. But one of those places, I am having a hard time with brushes here. One of the places that it does show up would be in the pupil of a portrait. I'm looking for one of my, here we go, the Winsor Newton Series 7. About time to get out another one, I suppose. It's actually, this is a watercolor brush. Winsor Newton Series 7 is actually a watercolor brush that I abuse on a regular basis by pulling it into the oil painting. As a result, they don't tend to last a real long time, which is really sad because they're really, really fine brushes. And when I do them is kind of criminal. But they're just such good brushes. That was Winsor Newton Series 7. For those of you who are, I talk about them all the time. You want at least one of them for doing your signature. I'm now mixing up a darker brown. Ended up not being darker enough. And a redder brown also. There we go. To tell you the truth, I wouldn't mind having a blow up of these eyes. I wouldn't mind looking at a photograph of these eyes. It was about, you know, an inch around or more. That would be helpful. Okay, we're getting closer. We are getting closer. I'm going to go ahead and put the reflection in these eyes. Now let's see if I can do this without really messing up, shall we? Yes, I use the handle of my brush often to mess up the paint that I just put down. Just kind of spread it around a little bit. There, it's starting to look like a dog, don't you think? Okay, I'm going to stop there. It's very likely that I will go over those eyes again. That's not the last layer. I think they could stand to be a little more orange, so that's good. That gives me somewhere to go, so to speak. And now that I'm not doing super details, let's go back to some regular painting. That means holding the brushes the right way, which in my book means side saddle. My favorite name for it anyway. I'm going to mix up a orangish brown, yeah, and start just scumbling in here some of this lovely burnt sienna, russet brown colors on Sheba's face. Again, this is not the last layer of the painting process. Whew. So, okay, if anybody who's following me for the first time, or almost first time, one of the general descriptors that you could put over my approach to painting. So if you want to say, oh yeah, that Dan Nelson guy, he's the guy that blank. Now, normally when I say transparent. That's one word, transparent. But here's another one, even broader than that. If you just want to be able to pigeonhole me in some way, you'd say, oh yeah, he's that guy. He's that guy that paints in layers, layers and layers and layers and layers. Correct. There you go. That's me. Layers and layers. Stages and stages. Way more than most people in my generation. I paint very much in the style or the technique of the old masters. By old masters, I mean Rembrandt, Rubens, what's his name, Fragonard, the Renaissance and late Renaissance painters. Layers and layers and layers of transparent and translucent color. That would be me. So once again, until the last layer, I don't demand that my painting, I don't put a burden on my painting that it look as good as a finished painting. Does that make sense? That is a hard concept for students to get used to, I've discovered. Again, they want to do what I call rush to judgment. They want to hurry up and get to the part that looks good, so to speak. Even though, I would think most of us would look at this and say, well, it already looks good. Right, correct. And I agree. But it's going to look a lot better. There's like a patience. I'm exercising a kind of patience. Now, this is not the only way to paint. A lot of people are much more direct and immediate and faster than I am, because they don't paint in layer upon layer upon layer. I do it because I like the look. It's the look that I love. The complexity of texture and color, the layers and layers and layers, all produce a complexity that I like, visual complexity that I like very much. Okay, I'm going to stop there, and just for fun, I'm going to next. Let's do the other mid-tone. So that was a mid-tone, right? Medium, medium golden brown, yes, you could say. Now I'm going to mix up a blue. Can you see? I'm sure you can see all the blue reflection. She's got black fur, right? That's reflecting blue from the sky, and it is quite beautiful. The blue is beautiful. I have discovered over the years and continue to discover, we are all who we are. I don't know about you, but I've been me my whole entire life. How about you? Have you been you your whole life? I have. So I've never been anybody else. So it's always a bit of an adventure and a mystery when you try to, and not so much when you accidentally get exposed to how somebody else thinks, and sometimes it's so different than how you think. And have you ever had that little bit of whiplash? Boy, you think what? All right, so here's some of my recent whiplash. Is that evidently, I'm struggling to try to describe it, but people, non-artists have extremely wrong ideas about what it's like to be an artist. And I think, now hang on, I like Bob Ross just as much, in fact probably more than you all, as a kid, and even now I can enjoy watching him, and I think I probably derive even more pleasure, one could say, out of his. But was he a good, as people say, was Bob Ross a good painter? And the answer is, heck if I know. The reason was because he didn't do any good painting on TV. Do you understand? Now, I'm not criticizing. I know it sounds like I'm criticizing him, but I'm really not. But what he did was not actually correct, proper painting. It was great entertainment, and it was painting of a sort, but it wasn't. Anyway, but I think a lot of people, they sort of get their art education from watching Bob Ross, and they think that that's sort of painting, and it's not. Like some friends of mine a couple weeks ago, they thought that, the life of an artist was just like, talking in that kind of dopey, hippie, drony tone of voice that I like to please understand. I like Bob Ross. Probably better than most of y'all, probably. But it was it was like a zen-y kind of thing. And no, that's not what it's like to be an artist. I work my buns off in every way. And I work hard. I work very hard and have worked very hard. The proverbial crawl 1,000 miles across a field of glass to get the skills that I have. It doesn't come from being like Bob Ross. Okay, so what he was showing you is not real. Anyway, so why did I get into that? There was something, I forget. Anyway, never mind. It wasn't just to rag on him, and it wasn't to brag. There was some reason I got into it. Now I forget what it was. Well, here's a related subject. Virtually, so I don't know if you can see my head. It's kind of twitching like this. I'm going looking here, 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 here. I'm sort of like a bobblehead watching a tennis match, to mix my metaphors. Boing, or ping pong match. Okay. Every time my eyes go over, in this case, to my left, and look at the photo reference, I see something new. I see some tiny little color, some little texture, some little edge, some little twist, some little something that I hadn't even seen before. It's like, oh, would you look at that? In fact, I organize to a degree what I'm looking for. So this is my third color. I did the mid-tone orange-brown, so I was looking for orange-brown. Then I did blue, so I was looking for blue. Now I'm doing mid-tone light brown, pale tan. So over here, every time I look over here, that's what I'm looking for now. So I'm completely ignoring the orange and ignoring the blue. Does that make sense? So essentially, every time I look over there, I'm seeing something. Well, look at that, would you? I hadn't even noticed that yet. Our brain, I think everybody's brain, can only take in so much information at any one moment, one given glance in this case. So, I've been, many times I'll be standing out on a street painting, and look, I could be two and a half hours into a painting, and I'll lift up my eyes and look at the street in front of me and go, my goodness, there's a blank, you name it, fire hydrant, sign, planter, magazine rack, no crossing sign, traffic light, bush, tree. I'm not talking about cars or people, things that move. I'm talking about things that have been there the whole time. I've been painting there for 2 or 3 hours and go, my goodness, who put that fire hydrant? That's what we call them in America. Who put that fire hydrant there? You know, and it's like close to me. I'm not talking about, 3 blocks down the street. Anyway, I've laughed at myself so many times. But that's the way our brain works. We can only see but so much information. Now, I'm willing to admit that maybe some people can see more than I can. Just as clearly, evidently, I can see more than some people can. So I'm sure there's some that can see a lot more than I can. But I still think the principle is true. We only see but so much. And any one bite, one swallow, one glance. She's starting to look like a, well, I hope she's starting to look like herself. I hope she's starting to look like a German Shepherd to me. Painting things like fur, I mean, painting anything, no matter what you're painting or drawing, the magic is in the abstraction of that. The trick is in coming up with a trick for capturing it or rendering it. And usually the best trick is not to get out a little one-haired brush and paint one hair at a time. Now, that is a school of thought, so that is an approach to painting, but generally speaking, that is not considered to be the best approach. It's the act of abstraction. Somebody asked me a while ago, I'm sorry, and it was somebody on Facebook, somebody new, asked me why I used 2 hands, and I gave sort of a smart aleck quick answer. I hope that person is still watching, as I'll answer it a little. Part of the reason I gave a sort of a smart aleck answer is I actually talk about that quite a bit because, as most of you would guess, painting with two hands is rather rare skill. So I started about 12 or 13 years ago. I just forced myself to, I was not ambidextrous at all. I just began forcing myself to paint using two hands, and just, I could go into a longer, I could tell you the story, but I've done it so many times already. I will do it again, but I'm not in the mood to do it right now. But if you're a painter, I strongly recommend, no matter how old you are, that you start forcing yourself to use your left hand. If you are an older painter, let me add, one of the reasons I started forcing myself to use two hands was I looked at old people and said, I see old people lose parts, I sort of putting it in a humorous manner. Old people lose arthritis, bursitis, stroke, so on. Old people, it seems to me, pretty often lose capacity of one arm or the other. So that's part of the reason I started, was to hedge my bet and to start training my left hand just in case something happened to my right hand. So that's been long, long, long ago now that I've crossed that barrier. I use two hands because it makes me a better painter, because I make better marks using two hands than I would just using one. Plus, here's a funny little truism: you can actually paint more quickly with two hands than you can with one. That was not a major motivation, but some of you may know that a lot of my painting is done live in front of an audience at weddings, corporate functions and festivals and so on and so forth. So being able to paint fast turns out is actually a noteworthy advantage. I'm going to do a little bit right on top of her nose. There's a color up there. It's a bluish brown. Again, how's that? Otherwise known, I guess, as gray, but nope, browner than that. One more thing about my painting with my left hand. Truly, when I'm in doubt, not about capturing something hyper-realistic, but when I'm trying to paint well, boy, I've got myself into a pickle. What's the difference between realistic and well? Good painting is the marks themselves. Every mark itself is interesting, beautiful, you might say. And sometimes, even when I'm striving for realism, though, I do better with my left hand than my right. My right hand tends to rush ahead because it can. And when I force myself to use my left hand, it's like I'm putting an extra barrier between myself and the product, the painting. And the extra mental energy required to get over that hurdle gives me an additional layer of objectivity that I don't quite have when I'm painting with my right hand. So if it sounds to you like I just said I paint better with my wrong hand, essentially that would be correct. Now, at the same time, I still paint more accurately and with more control with my right hand. I'm still very much right-handed, but control does not translate into good painting. In fact, very often it's the very opposite. think I have a brush here that still has some black left on it. Now, if I really had to, if I were painting at an event, the 45th anniversary of the North Carolina Veterinary Doctors Association Festival, and I could finish this painting tonight, and it would be a pretty good painting, but I don't have that pressure, thank goodness. So I'm not going to try to finish it tonight, thank goodness. And which means when I come back and look at it with fresh eyes tomorrow morning, I will have the capacity to make fresh judgments. And I'm thankful for that. That little window of opportunity I'll have to look with fresh eyes at this tomorrow. Again, because I don't even require at this stage, I don't even require that my drawing be perfectly correct. It's as close as I can get at this moment. But I know that tomorrow when I come back, again, looking with fresh eyes, I will get closer. So that'll be good. Again, Dan Nelson paints in stages. If you want to be a good painter, you should seriously consider painting layer by layer by layer. Not all at once. Don't rush. Don't rush to try to finish. Don't be embarrassed what an unfinished painting looks like. You have no reason to be embarrassed. It's not finished, right? There, hoping some of you over a stuck bit. Hello, Ursula. Good to see you again. Hello, Marlo Carew. Oh boy, let's go back. I'm missing. Hello, Mark and Laura Marsh, Lisa Bartell. Oh my goodness, I'm missing a bunch of you. Hello, Richard Williams. Oh, good. Thank you. You're very welcome. Yeah, animals is not my most common. I did a dog portrait just a couple weeks ago. So that makes, I think I've done a total of 4, maybe 5. I'm probably forgetting some, but be that as it may. 4 comes to mind. This being the 4th, I think, or 5th. Anyway, never mind. See, I shouldn't have started guessing. And what are you two people saying? Hello, Dennis Redmond. I already said hi to you, didn't I? Take that back. Oh, Bruno Vista from Canada, yay! And dun 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 bum bum bum. I was born in Canada, Bruno. All my aunts, uncles, and cousins are still Canadian. I even had one of my younger brothers a couple years ago went back to his Canadian citizenship after being a Yank for 50 years. He went back to being a Canuck. Isn't that something? He lives in Japan, which had something to do with his decision. I don't know the details exactly. I'm sure you could tell them to me if I asked. Anyway, it's nice to be from Canada. Everybody likes Canadians. If you don't like Canadians, don't say anything, because I'm enjoying my delusion. If it's a delusion, I'm happy in it. Just leave me alone. There's a nice little bit of highlight, isn't there? There on that cheek, jowl. I don't know. I don't have my animal anatomy down real well. I don't think dogs really have cheeks, do they? They have jowls. Am I right in thinking that? I can see if I did a lot of animal portraits, I'd need to brush up on my anatomical terminology. little while ago I was talking about dogs' black lips, and I don't think they have lips. They're not called lips. What are they called? Okay, I'm not a dog person. To me, they're lips. Lovely dog. And I did GIF. I don't know if you were listening earlier. I have always been partial to German Shepherds. Really have. My best friend in elementary school had German Shepherds. And then we had a Norwegian Elkhound, which has the face kind of a German Shepherd. I'm trying to remember now, it might have been an Elkhound Shepherd mix. I sort of think it was, now that I'm thinking this is a long time ago. A very fine dog. But my wife and I are done with dogs. We value long trips more than we value the companionship of pets. Some of you pet lovers, you just can't imagine thinking that way. I know, because I can't imagine thinking like you guys. I hope you all are doing well. I was on a phone call with a Zoom call. Boy, aren't we doing Zoom calls these days? I don't know about you, but I've got Zoom calls happening left, right, and center. Wow, and I plan to start some of my own here, by the way, pretty soon. But anyway, I told my friends, I know it's a terrible time and there's a horrible crisis going on, but you wouldn't know it by my house. We're just having the greatest time. We, for those of you who are not familiar with some of our live-in situation, Nancy and I, we're coming up on our 40th anniversary in a week after next. And our daughter, her husband, and their 4 kids have lived with us now for 2.5 years. Not only so, but my wife's youngest brother is moving in with us in a couple weeks. So this is one of the ways you deal with coronavirus. You just all start living together. We had a head start on that. Anyway, we are truly blessed. I'm getting a whole lot more done than I thought. It smelled like supper was just about to come crashing through the door any second 30 minutes ago. So that's fine with me. I'm glad to get more done. I'm doing some subtle coloring on the muzzle, not his nose, right? I got that part right? Dogs do have noses, but this is not their nose, this is his muzzle. And I really think I should stop with that because I want to leave room for me to do stuff tomorrow. Oh yeah, sure. Let's do this. Let's big break. Oh, Brenda, doing 2 dogs. That's funny. You're the 4th person artist today, I think, that said you were working on either just finished or were just working on dog portraits. Isn't that fun? Well, great. By the way, here's a tip. What I am doing right now. I really stayed working on this probably too long, but I was having fun. I'll come back to it later. But a really good tip for painters is move around. Don't just stay on one thing too long. You can come back later. You'll see it with fresh eyes. And I am sort of anxious to go ahead and do some of the sky anyway. Now, let me give you a little bit of insight into how Dan Nelson paints skies. Okay, if you had to use one word, class, are you paying attention? What might be one word you would use to describe my approach to painting skies? Quiz time. All right, if you said layers or stages or phases, layer upon layer upon layer, then you would be correct, right? How do you paint skies? Not all at once. You paint them by applying layer and layer and layer and layer. All right, so this is, well, I've got 4 layers of acrylics, and this is my second layer of oils. So this is layer number, so far, layer number 6 on the sky, right? And, at least 4 more layers to go. I can't beat a 3-year-old boy singing to himself. Just hard to beat that, folks. So yeah, we have 4 kids, ages 3, 5, 7, and 9, living with us. And it's a temporary situation, but it's been going on for 2.5 years. I promise it is. The 5-year-old girl explained to one of her friends not too long ago, she said, well, it's not really our house. We're staying over with our grandparents. It's kind of like a really long sleepover. She made that up herself. We just howled when we overheard that. Kind of like a really long sleepover. Anyway, we get along amazingly well. Don't we, Lake? Yep. Some of you know Lake. She loves to get in my videos. If you wonder, by the way, if I'm copying these clouds, the answer is no. I have a minute ago I had quite a dark gray, like probably a number 4. 0 is white, 10 is black, so it was a fairly, mid-tone dark gray on my brushes. Now I've got about a number 2 gray, so still very far from white. And right now I could either go back to blue or do a lighter gray white. I think I'm going to do a lighter gray white. And I just got the first warning for supper. And I am thinking about, I'm giving much attention to how the clouds interact with the ears. Okay, right before, okay, I'm gonna be there in a minute. I have to do some clouds right before I leave. It's not clouds, I mean to say blue sky. I'm gonna do some blue sky, and then this layer of sky should be done. So everything I'm doing right now, I'm calling all this one layer. Do you understand? So when I say I paint in layers, that's, you could, this is my, I did blue, gray, gray. So this is the 4th time. Let's go the other way this time. Don't always go the same direction. But I would consider that all of this to be one hit, one phase, one layer of the sky. Not 4. Even you could subdivide it into 4. So there'll be much more. The sky will be just perfectly balanced, colored, and so on and so forth, designed in many respects by the time I'm finished. And Yeah, it's a little bit rough and ragged right now, just as it ought to be. Since I've got this blue on my brushes, a little bit more blue highlight on Sheba's forehead. It's a 5-year-old there. I consider these blue highlights in her fur to be paramount importance in this painting. And I won't mind taking some liberties to exaggerate the blueness just a tiny bit to make it a good painting.
They dump it. What's it done? A big pile.
Part of my job as an artist is to help non-artists to see how much color there actually is in the world that they don't notice. Like most people would think this dog is brown. But when they look at my painting and say, oh, wow, that dog's got a lot of blue in him. Indeed. I'm going to stop there. Thank you all for your fun company and chat. Say hello, Anson. Good to see your name, my friend. All right, they're praying over there. By the way, you all just got prayed for. The 3-year-old says, I'll pray. He says, thank you for the coronavirus going away. If God doesn't hear that prayer, he doesn't hear anybody's. Okay, love y'all. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.